Can love overcome societal boundaries? Join us in this episode with Jacob Simon as we delve into the complexities of interracial marriage, unraveling stories of connection, and navigating the intricacies of cultural diversity. Produced by Eloheise Network.
Love, love, love. So welcome to an episode that journey into the beauty and challenges of love that transcend borders. So in this installment, we explore the topic of interracial marriage and its intersection with biblical perspective. So as we navigate the pages of scriptures and the stories of real people, we aim to shed light on the insight, complexity, and involvement understanding surrounding this deeply meaningful connection. Hey, join us as we navigate a conversation that embrace diversity, encourage dialogue, and seek to bridge the gaps between faith, love, and cultural traditions. So stay tuned. And love is very important, right? Yeah, well, let's watch this one.
The Old Testament law commanded the Israelites not to engage in interracial marriage. Deuteronomy 7:3-4. However, the reason for this command was not skin color or ethnicity. Rather, it was religious. The reason God commanded against interracial marriage for the Jews was that foreign people were worshippers of false gods. The Israelites would be led astray if they intermarried with idol worshippers, pagans, or heathens. This is exactly what happened in Israel, according to Malachi 2:11. A similar principle of spiritual purity is laid out in the New Testament, but it has nothing to do with race.
Mrs. Loving, what has been the worst part about all this for you?
Well, I guess the worst thing was spending a little time in jail. That's the worst thing.
In January of 1959, the Lovings pleaded guilty to violating the so-called Racial Integrity Act of 1924.
What did they tell you you had to do?
The judge then offered the Lovings a choice: a full year in jail or exile.
They said I had to leave the state.
And what happened after that?
Well, I left.
And took your wife with you?
That's right.
The Lovings moved to the District of Columbia, where in 1963 they began the legal challenge that eventually led to the Supreme Court and vindication. As Chief Justice Earl Warren wrote, quote, "The freedom to marry or not marry a person of another race resides with the individual and cannot be infringed by the state."
Do not be yoked together with unbelievers. For what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? Or what fellowship can light have with darkness? 2 Corinthians 6:14. Just as the Israelites, believers in the one true God, were commanded not to marry idolaters, so Christians, believers in the one true God, are commanded not to marry unbelievers. The Bible never says that interracial marriage is wrong. Anyone who forbids interracial marriage is doing so without biblical authority.
It's hard to believe. I still don't believe it, but, I feel free now.
Richard and Mildred Loving are both gone now, but their victory is celebrated by marriage rights advocates every year on this day, called, appropriately enough, Loving Day.
As Martin Luther King Jr. noted, a person should be judged by his or her character, not by skin color. There is no place in the life of the Christian for favoritism based on race, James 2:1-10. In fact, the biblical perspective is that there is only one race, the human race, with everyone having descended from Adam and Eve. When selecting a mate, a Christian should first find out if the potential spouse is born again by faith in Jesus Christ. John 3:3-5.
When we were targeted online by a white supremacist group. That's correct, right? White supremacist?
Supremacist.
Supremacist?
Yeah.
A white supremacist group. Supremacist. That doesn't feel organic to me. The first question is, what do you wish the other person understood about your race on a deeper level?
That's a pretty good question. I'd have to say one of the things that I wish you understood a little better is just being stared at. There's been many times, it still happens, a lot less now, but I know someone's staring at me and I know they're judging me. I can tell. I can tell when someone's appreciating my differences, and I can tell when somebody is like, what's that black guy doing in this town?
54 years ago this weekend, the United States Supreme Court struck down all legal barriers to interracial marriage. We've come a long way since then. But as Rita Braver reports, there are some barriers that still remain.
Corn, green beans, watermelon, all
When
that stuff.
Friends introduced Carlos Brock to Tanya Bohannon in 1996, they both just knew.
Oh man, it was just something about her, the vibe that she put off. I was like, that's what I want to marry.
He was really nice. He was different than anybody that I had ever dated before. He was just very genuine and kind.
When your parents realized that you were seriously interested in someone from a different race, what was their response?
My mother she was cool with it, but there's some still today don't accept it, but we don't care.
Sorry. I still get emotional. It's been many years.
Who gave you a hard time about it?
I don't want to say, but it was someone very close to me that basically just disowned me.
It was just about being happy with each other.
But even today, Tanya, who is a mail carrier,
I need 5 barbecue sandwiches.
and Carlos, who owns a food truck,
What you want, the barbecue or ribs?
Barbecue.
All right.
say there are still places in their hometown of rural Toccoa, Georgia, where they know they are not welcome. And people, even supposed friends, who can make unsettling comments.
People always feel it necessary to say that they're not racist, to us. And that they don't teach their children to notice color or anything. But in the same 30-minute conversation, the man says, but if my daughter came home saying that she was dating a black man, I wouldn't approve of it. Unfortunately, it's just still so normal.
But some things have changed in the half-century since the Loving versus Virginia case, when the U.S. Supreme Court declared that laws banning interracial marriage are unconstitutional.
Felt so great.
I feel free now.
Nowadays, you can hardly open a magazine
Quite the pair.
Just like us.
or turn on the TV without seeing interracial couples.
English, please. Are you getting married?
According to the Pew Foundation, at least 19% of new marriages in the U.S. now involve spouses from different ethnic or racial groups, up from 11% in 2000.
Faith in Christ, not skin color, is the biblical standard for choosing a spouse. Interracial marriage is not a matter of right or wrong, but of prayer and personal choice. A couple considering marriage needs to weigh many factors. While a difference in ethnicity should not be ignored, it absolutely should not be the determining factor in whether a couple should marry. An interracial couple may face discrimination and ridicule, and they should be prepared to respond to such prejudice in a biblical manner. But marriage is honorable among all, Hebrews 13:4. Also, there is no difference between Jew and Gentile. The same Lord is Lord of all, and richly blesses all who call on him, Romans 10:12. A colorblind church and/or a Christian interracial marriage can be a powerful illustration of our equality and oneness in Christ.